when I listen to the podcast, there are,
Yep.
I guess part of what I enjoy is listening to the journey, understanding
Yep.
the journey of how, the guest has gotten to where they've gotten to. And one of the questions that I love that you always ask is a question that I want to ask you. And I'm going to round off the interview by asking you this one question. So
Yep.
what advice would you give your younger self? And I want to add a slight caveat. And the
Yep.
caveat is, what's the advice that you give your younger self that you think your younger self would heed?
So they are two excellent questions. They're excellent questions because the first one is mine, but the second one is really good. Okay, so well, how long have you got? Because there's a long list. There's a long list. What are the things that stand out for me? I think number one is it was too much about myself. Okay. When you're 25, it is very much about yourself. You're kind of driven. You've got professional ambitions. So you're very focused on your personal achievement. So one thing I would certainly advise myself is that it is not just about you. Okay. If I'd learnt earlier the power of empowering others around you as early as you can in your career, I talk about a book, Ego is the Enemy, which it's Ryan Halliday. He talks about that, and I think to myself, if I had done that from an earlier period, I would have had a much more satisfying early career. And I think you just build relationships and people, and you impact on people. And I didn't know that at 25, and that's certainly the first bit of advice I'd give to myself. Not just about you. Think about how you can empower others, because that comes round in spades. Would I have actually listened to myself on that one? I think certainly partially. I was pretty kind of focused and driven, and me. I think I probably would have had a level of impact. How much, I'm not sure. Second bit of advice, and I hear this advice come back from so many of my guests, all that time worrying about the next move, the next step. How much of the time is actually time well spent? Not much at all. Would I have heeded that advice? Probably not. I was a warrior. Still kind of am. I've got a lot better at it right now. And kind of you can afford to be. There are big milestones in my life, my children, their education and so forth, success in the early career. That's their past. So there's kind of less to worry about. But as I said, would I have heeded that kind of advice? Probably not. And what's the third thing I probably would have advised myself back at 25 is thinking about the long term. Sometimes by doing that all the time, you fail to be present. Okay, you are always thinking about what is the next goal I'm going to achieve, what is the next career milestone, and I sometimes even do it today. You're on the phone, but your family is around the table. So so I come back to being present. Easy to say, hard to do. Okay, but those those moments, sometimes it's in the car driving the kids, or one child to school. Being present and not thinking about and not taking a glance and not thinking about the phone call that's coming up and so forth. That is really, really important, because, and you hear this, but lots of people, that time disappears. You don't get it again. I don't know how much of that advice I would have heeded early on, but it's just so important. Sometimes, and now when I find myself in those old habits, I do try to check myself and try and be present, because it's super important.